Well, hello there, my beautiful, beautiful fellow space blobs. If you are new here, my name is Sarah, and this is a space where we get to be ourselves as we explore these themes and as we take the pressure off of both tarot and astrology and start to make it really our own unique experience. And I have just been appreciating this space more and more. As those of you who have been with me on the journey know, like this last year has been a lot of reconsidering what is meaningful in work and life. I immigrated at the beginning of 2022, and I've been learning so much about myself in really, really deep, profound ways, which I'd love to share in the future as I get more familiar with some of the ways that that has coalesced in me. But I've been just feeling so much appreciation because I did the Libra full moon chat recently and was feeling really emotional the day that I was doing that work. And everybody just was so lovely and I felt so connected, and it just makes it worth it to be here and to do this work. And so I was feeling really inspired to sit down and have just a little bit of an intuitive moment about April. April is really poetic. We are beginning eclipse season, Taurus season, and starting a Mercury retrograde. And so I thought this would be just a really nice time to get ourselves settled in, feel through the month ahead. And also, as you all know, I love to take a moment to really sit with Mercury retrograde and own it for ourselves. And I think a lot of us already have redefined Mercury retrograde for ourselves and work with it each in our own unique way. I know many of you probably have like a natal Mercury retrograde, as I do. And so it's a really natural placement, actually, maybe works a little bit better with you. However, I think still, isn't it just so nice to take a moment, sit down together, feel through it, and really claim it as our own? So that's going to be the heart and soul of this conversation. But I also wanted to just give us a little sense of this month and some of the themes that we may be working with as we move through this month of the year. This is such a poetic month. April for me feels so tender, so alive. It is full of this kind of energy of these new flowers that are springing up from the ground that we've never seen before. You know, like colors and textures and feelings that maybe we haven't ever experienced in our lives before, that we're getting used to and familiar with, but that are also bringing some joy, some little pockets of possibility that feel really different and new. I think that's such a tender process, and one that is both exhilarated and also can leave parts of ourselves feeling a little like mystified as to how to move through that. And part of that is because we are, one, working with eclipse season this month and working with some really tender moon cycles. And also because we are working with Mercury retrograde. So I think what I'll do is I'll just quickly note some of the things happening this April, just give us a little bit of a map. And then I'm going to get into the themes and how to work with this particular Mercury retrograde. So Mercury enters Taurus on April 3rd, so very early on in the month, and is basically just going to be working with Taurus's energy into June. The actual retrograde is going to happen between April 21st, right when we hit Taurus season, and May 15th. So almost all of Taurus season is going to have this flavor of Mercury in Taurus in retrograde, which really adds this beautiful like bath energy to it to me. For me, this is going to be about bathing in the beauty of Taurus energy and not resisting our becoming. That's going to be one of the huge themes we are going to see coming up again and again during April, is that if we are resisting our becoming, we'll be feeling a lot of tired sluggishness. And if we just let go just a little bit in those places where we're holding tight, we're going to be able to appreciate some of those flowers and new buds that are blooming in a really special way. And this isn't about perfection. We don't have to be like just floating along. Like, we're all going to have days where we feel more tense, more contracted, and more open. And that is natural. And we should not judge ourselves if we aren't feeling like just go in the flow all of the time. But this is a permission to just kind of release some tension with that Mercury journey through Taurus, and as the sun moves through Taurus as well. This month, of course, we're still in Aries season up until around the 20th. So we have that full moon in Libra, which we talked about and which I got so emotional chatting about, which is conjunct Chiron, or the sun and Chiron are conjunct and they're opposing that full moon. And that is so much about self-acceptance. And it really sets the tone for what we're going to be working with during eclipse season, which happens and starts on April 19th, right at the end of Aries season, right before we begin Taurus season. We're going to have that new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And I will have a whole chat about this, but this is really going to be about life longing to take on another form and the emotional process that it requires for us to both feel the truth of that and release and even grieve and feel it move through our bodies, as well as starting to connect with the unimaginable horizon. And that theme during this eclipse season that is happening simultaneously with the Mercury retrograde is very much going to be the theme, is that idea of the unimaginable horizon. And it's one that I think I used to talk about this all the time back in 2017, 2018. It was one of my things. And that idea is that there's a whole bunch of elements. There are people, places, tastes, foods, experiences, emotions that we haven't experienced yet. And there's no way for us to really imagine it from here. Even if we do vision board work, even if we, have an idea or a plan of where we'd like to go, there's always elements within that we don't see coming. And I think we can all agree when we look through life, it's there's plenty of things that happened that did not see coming. Sweden happens to be one of those things. I live in Sweden now, and 4 years ago, right around now, I had no idea whatsoever. That's a really vivid example of the unimaginable horizon in action. But that's going to be a really big theme for this April. And so what that requires is us taking some of the pressure off of all the planning, all the controlling, all the mastering of things, and opening to the mystery a little bit. But let's get into Mercury retrograde, because many of you know this is one of my favorite topics, and I know many of you also enjoy this conversation. So let's talk about Mercury retrograde specifically in the sign of Taurus. So I love this actually. I love a Mercury retrograde in an earth sign because it helps us get back in touch with our bodies. Our culture is so into linear, let's go straight ahead. It loves it. We get all our stories about it from there. And a lot of times this is how many of us feel that we disconnect from ourselves. We disconnect from our body. We disconnect from what we need. We disconnect from our process and what really brings us to life. So when we get a Mercury retrograde in Taurus like this, it gives us a moment to step out of that linear time, step out of that linear go, go, go mode, and really hear our body's rhythms. Here where we are now. There's so much transformation with eclipse season, with some of these new transits like Saturn in Pisces, Pluto in Aquarius. We have, and the eclipses themselves. So this is a really great time to kind of get back in touch with where we are now. I think this is also going to be a really wonderful time when we're talking about stepping out of linear time and out of that very direct, straightforward plotting, moving forward, all of that. This is really going to be a wonderful time of reassessment about what we really want to pursue. And I know I bring this up a lot, but I think this is such an important element of 2023, that a lot of the things that we thought we had to pursue, it was super important to pursue for a while, and maybe it was for a certain amount of time, now needs to be reassessed. Do we really want to put all our energy into that same form, that same manifestation, what have you, right? The next thing, and this goes along with this idea of linear time and this kind of idea of the up and to the right XY graph where you just endlessly go forward, is, are there always goals that you're pursuing, but you never feel like you can rest once you get there? There's always the next goal, the next thing to check off the list, the next thing to accomplish, the next thing to become. I actually think Mercury retrograde in Taurus really challenges this idea that we've always got to be pursuing our best selves. Of course, we're all growing and becoming in life, throughout life. That is an element of it. And it is important to have growth and to learn new things, of course, but at some point we also have to cultivate the ability to just be okay with where we are. Maybe we don't have the money that we want to have, or the physique we want to have, or the authenticity, being yourself in a party that stresses you out, that you want to have, or whatever it might be, or your spiritual level that you think you need to be at. But one of the important things about this Mercury retrograde in Taurus is going to be asking, is it okay for you to just sit down and be here? What does that feel like? Do you feel like you're not allowed to do it? Do you feel like you've been longing to do it for ages and you just never find the time? Or even if you do it, do you let yourself really do it? I was thinking about this in recent months because I got recommended that Architectural Digest channel on YouTube. It was Rita Ora's house. She had this beautiful house, I think somewhere in the London area, with this amazing garden. And there was something about this space that I just wanted to go sit there and read a book. But I had been so busy running around the last several months and just trying to get everything done and doing all these things that I realized I had this fantasy of sitting in that garden and reading a book, but I wouldn't even let myself do that in my cozy little apartment here in Stockholm. Like, I wasn't even taking that hour to just totally savor reading a book. So even if I was living in Rita Ora's like super expensive apartment or house in London, like, I wouldn't necessarily be enjoying it, would I? So this is a really great time to just explore this and to take a breath and to maybe give yourself some space for that experience. Along with that, and this just feeds on this as well, is this idea of do we have any beliefs that to exist is not enough? That there has to be more, there always has to be an accomplishment, there always has to be an acknowledgement that you're okay, Like, I know that I often find that, I need that, I think I need that approval from a teacher, coworker, or a voice from somebody else, or even my partner, and it's just okay to be. And is it okay to be? What does that feel like? Like I mentioned, what is truly fulfilling for you in life right now is another theme. Really get honest with that. That one can actually take some time to unpack because we may be motivated by a lot of things, including trying to just stay safe and secure, which is a theme that comes up time and again with Taurus as well, security and safety. Then you may be motivated to keep doing it, but it may not actually be fulfilling us. And those are two very different things. So it's just letting yourself feel it. And honestly, with this, I would say this Mercury retrograde can also be a wonderful time for tears of release, moving our bodies, feeling it out, stretching it out, letting emotion move through our bodies. Taurus energy is very connected to the physical, and that this body has meaning in that, it's conversing with us too. And so this is really a beautiful Mercury retrograde to let emotions move through your body. If you can find some time to let that happen, whether that be stretching, crying, sitting on the grass and crying, sitting in the bath and crying, whatever it is that feels good to you, maybe laughing, maybe moving and just letting out any erratic energy that's been building up that you haven't felt like you were allowed to move through. This is a really great season for all of that. And essentially, these 3 weeks when we have Mercury in retrograde, it's really, really about being countercultural with our values, with the way we use our energy and our time. And I think that's a much more empowered way to think about Mercury retrograde. So often it kind of is presented as this thing that's happening and we kind of have to live under the umbrella of it, and it's chaos and it's electricity. For me, it's more about this practice of okay, how am I going to challenge the ways that I've been keeping myself held accountable? How am I going to challenge? How am I going to invert things and subvert things so that they mean something to me? So that my rest is something that gives me strength and connection and dream space, so that when I'm creating something, I know I'm doing it because it feels good. It's a really great way to find a little bit of rebellion and fun in our creative process as well. So I'm really looking forward to chat about all of these elements, the moons, the eclipses, some of the shifts that are going to be happening as we move through the month of April. So be sure to subscribe and like and leave a comment if you are just feeling the beauty of the season. I would love to hear what people are feeling about this April, because I'm feeling so much magic about it. It's felt so good to just sit here and chat about it and feel through it. What's your relationship to Mercury retrograde too? If you've stayed this long through the video, you are a true space blob. You're a true friend. Also, I would love to see you on Patreon. We are going to be doing so many amazing things over there. I'm really walking us through so much depth during the eclipse season. I'm also going to be helping to activate and give us some worksheets and some ways to explore both Mercury retrograde, also the upcoming shift in Jupiter from Aries to Taurus. So there's a lot that I'm looking forward to doing together over these coming months. So I'd really love to see you there. It's how I'm able to keep being here as well. So anybody who joins over there is really helping me continue to do my work, and that's just a beautiful thing. So thank you so much for those of you who are already there. I will see you all very soon. Have a beautiful beginning to April, my gorgeous friends.